seated. Now, please rise. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
Well, good afternoon, Honorable Premier, Honorable Ministers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. To begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are meeting here on Treaty 6 territory. We respect the history, languages, and the cultures of the First Nations, the Métis, and all First People, whose presence continue to enrich our province and our country. I'd like to offer a few words to mark this very special occasion. As the Queen's representative, I have the privilege of playing a role in our system of government. And I can tell you that my constitutional duties are something that I take very seriously, but I very much enjoy. They are a constant reminder for me of the benefits that we enjoy as Canadians, like the freedom and the rule of law. And I have to say those are things that we should never, ever take for granted. Members of the Executive Council are also guardians of those gifts, and the work that you do has a direct effect on the continued smooth functioning of our province, as well as the quality of life enjoyed by all Albertans. You have very challenging jobs, and I have every respect for the energy, the dedication, and the sacrifices that come with serving as Minister of the Crown. To our newest Cabinet Minister, I have every confidence that you will give your very best to the work that lies ahead. To Premier Notley and all Cabinet Ministers, thank you for your ongoing service to our province. And finally, to the friends and the family and colleagues here today, do enjoy this wonderful day. Thank you. Recommending member of the Executive Council, and I have accepted her recommendation. Premier, will you now please introduce to our guest the new member of the Executive Council?
Thank you very much, Your Honour. And I'd now ask that Ms. Sandra Jansen, member of the Legislative Assembly, step forward to swear the oath of Executive Council.
solemnly swear at the close of the oath. You, Sandra Jensen, do solemnly promise and swear that you will serve Her Majesty truly and faithfully in the place of her council in this Her Majesty's province of Alberta. You will keep close and secret all such matters as shall be treated, debated, and resolved on and in executive council without publishing or disclosing the same or any part thereof by word, writing, or any otherwise to any person out of the same council, but to such only as be of the council. And yet, if any matter so propounded, treated, and debated in any such executive council shall touch any particular person, sworn of the same council upon any such matter as shall in any wise concern his loyalty and fidelity to the Queen's Majesty, you will in no wise open the same to him, but keep it secret, as you would from any person, until the Queen's Majesty's pleasure be known in that behalf. You will in all things to be moved, treated, and debated in any such executive council, faithfully, honestly, and truly declare your mind and opinion to the honor and benefit of the Queen's Majesty and the good of her subjects, without partiality or exception of persons. In no wise forbearing so to do from any manner of respect, favor, love, need, displeasure, or dread of any person or persons whatsoever. In general, you will be vigilant, diligent, and circumspect in all your doings touching the Queen's Majesty affairs. All which matters and things you will faithfully observe and keep, as a good counselor ought to do, to the utmost of your power, will, and discretion. I do solemnly swear.
I do solemnly swear.
The minister will now subscribe to the oath by signing the Executive Council roll book.
So, Your Honor, I would now ask the Honourable Sandra Jansen, Minister of Infrastructure, to please take the oath of office.
Yes, I'll ask you to take the oath of office and subscribe to the same in the Executive Council roll book.
I, Sandra Lynn Jansen, do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will duly and faithfully and to the best of my skill and knowledge execute the powers and trust reposed in me as Minister of Infrastructure for the province of Alberta. So help me God.
Commonwealth, defender of the faith. To all to whom these presents shall come, greeting. Know ye that having confidence in the loyalty, integrity, and ability of Sandra Lynn Jansen of Calgary in the province of Alberta, I, under and by virtue of the power in me vested in that behalf, do appoint her, the said Sandra Lynn Jansen, to be Minister of Infrastructure for the province of Alberta, to have and to hold with all and every the powers, privileges, authority, and advantages to the said office of Minister of Infrastructure, by right and by law appertaining. In testimony whereof I have caused these letters to be made patent, and the great seal of the province of Alberta to be hereto affixed. So I witness this now by the Honorable Lieutenant Governor of the province of Alberta, Lois Mitchell of Edmonton, in our said province, the 17th day of October 2017, and in the 66th year of Her Majesty's reign. Congratulations.
All rise.
I'm just going to ask if everyone could just stay. We're going to have the parliamentary secretaries take their oath now. Premier?
Thank you. Thank you very much. So it is my pleasure to welcome two parliamentary secretaries. Jessica Littlewood is the parliamentary secretary to the Minister of Economic Development and Trade for Small Business. Annie McKittrick is the parliamentary secretary to the Minister of Education. The provincial secretary and Minister of Justice and Solicitor General, the Honourable Kathleen Ganley, will administer the oath.
I ask that Jessica Littlewood come forward and take the oath of confidence and allegiance and sign the same.
I, Jessica Littlewood, do solemnly promise and affirm that I will serve Her Majesty truly and faithfully in this Her Majesty's province of Alberta, and that I will not, without due authorization, disclose or make known any matter or thing which comes to my knowledge by reason of my role as parliamentary secretary. In general, I will be vigilant, diligent, and circumspect in all my doings touching the Queen Majesty's affairs. All which matters and things I will faithfully observe and keep to the utmost of my power, will, and discretion. So affirm.
sign the same.
I, Mr. Chair, do solemnly swear that I will serve Her Majesty truly and faithfully in this Her Majesty's province of Alberta, and I will not, without due authorization, disclose or make known any matter or thing which comes to my knowledge by reason of my role as Parliamentary Secretary. In general, I will be vigilant, diligent, and circumspect in all of my doings touching the Queen's Majesty's affairs. All which matters and things I will faithfully observe and keep to the utmost of my power, will, and discretion. Good year, Mayor.
Well, thank you very much, and congratulations to all three of you. And thank you, everyone, for being here today to join us here on the traditional territory of Treaty 6. We're here today because I'm increasing our Cabinet's ability to create jobs for Albertans and to get things built. When the price of oil collapsed and the economic downturn hit, we were faced with the choice. You've probably heard me talk about this before. Some people suggested, and indeed continue to suggest, that the way to respond to a downturn is to cut funding for badly needed hospitals, schools, and highways, putting even more of our skilled workforce out of work. We don't agree with that approach. Rather than cutting and firing, we're building and hiring. Why? Well, first, because we inherited a huge infrastructure deficit, especially with our schools, our hospitals, and our highways, and we're fixing that deficit. Second, interest rates are low, so now's the time to build. And finally, and most important, too many highly skilled Albertans are still looking for work. Albertans we are doing everything we can to help by creating jobs. It's why we're building a long overdue new cancer centre in Calgary to help create jobs and make sure Albertans get the best possible cancer care in a modern, world-class facility. It's why we're building badly needed schools across Alberta to help create jobs and to make sure that our kids learn in safe, healthy, world-class schools. And it's why we're building the Southwest Ring Road and the Green Line LRT in Calgary, the Valley Line in LRT in Edmonton, and why we are making badly needed upgrades to highways, interchanges, and other transportation projects across Alberta. Construction projects that help people get around, create good jobs, and grow our economy. Now, for over 2 years now, Minister Mason has carried 2 portfolios. All that without a tie. Couldn't help it. He's led the charge with our capital plan and as the minister responsible for infrastructure, and he's done that while working with communities across Alberta as the minister responsible for transportation. And because that wasn't enough, he's also been our House leader, guiding us through hundreds of days of legislative sittings. Today, we're sharpening our focus on infrastructure. Putting Albertans to work today while building the infrastructure our economy will need for tomorrow is a key pillar of our economic plan. That plan is showing results. Today, Alberta's economy is looking up, but we also know that there's more work to do, especially in Calgary, where too many people are still looking for work. So we're working to help those people. And that's why I'm appointing an experienced and well-known champion for Calgary as our new Minister of Infrastructure, Sandra Jansen. Sandra will oversee our job-creating capital plan, and I'm asking Sandra to carry out this work with a specific eye to projects that create jobs in Calgary, such as the Green Line. And because the Green Line is an important project for us and for families in Calgary, oversight of the Green Line will remain with Minister Jansen. Sandra's the person for the job. She's a key member of our excellent Calgary team and will strengthen Calgary's voice around the cabinet table and in our government. She's a well-known leader in Calgary and across Alberta. She's fearless, knows what she stands for, and isn't afraid to stand up for what she knows is right. And I couldn't be happier to have her leading these important files. Minister Mason will remain the Minister of Transportation and will also, of course, remain our House Leader. Work that will only get more important as we continue our work on our ambitious legislative agenda and at the same time continue our focus on making it easier and more affordable for people to get around their communities and cities. I'm also today appointing 2 new parliamentary secretaries. First, Jessica Littlewood, the MLA for Fort Saskatchewan-Vegreville, has been appointed the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Economic Development and Trade for Small Business. Small and medium-sized businesses are critical to Alberta's continued economic recovery and to making sure Albertans have good jobs. That's why we cut the small business tax by 1/3, introduced new tax credits to help businesses hire and expand, and provided targeted supports for Alberta businesses looking to expand their reach and enter new markets. Among other things, Jessica's new role will be to work with the Ministry of Economic Development and Trade and other levels of government to better align programs that help small and medium-sized businesses grow and create jobs. Specifically, looking at ways to build on existing regional strengths to help diversify our economy. She will also work directly with small and medium businesses to make sure their ideas and advice continue to be represented in all levels of our decision-making. Now, secondly, on another extremely important priority for all Albertans, I'm appointing Annie McKittrick, the MLA for Sherwood Park, as the new Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Education. There is no better investment that we can make in our province's future than providing the next generation with the tools that they need to realize their dreams. That's why we're building new schools, directing resources into the classroom, and ensuring that the funding for education remains stable and predictable. Among other things, Annie's role will be to work with the Ministry of Education on the continued implementation, evaluation, and expansion of our government's school nutrition program. And she will work directly with the Minister of Education to strengthen the relationship and ensure that we make smart school planning decisions with other important levels of government. Finally, I'm appointing Calgary MLA Brian Malkinson to sit on Treasury Board, further strengthening Calgary's representation at this important decision-making table. And Estefania Cortez Vargas, the MLA for Strathcona-Sherwood Park and our caucus whip, was recently sworn in to our Legislative Review Committee of Cabinet, where she's keeping the focus on policies that help make life better for Albertans. In closing, let me say this. Our economy is recovering and things are looking up. But for too many Albertans, the economic recovery hasn't helped them and their family out as of yet. We are working very hard to change that. We're creating good jobs by building the Green Line, the new cancer center, new schools, and more. We're making things more affordable for people by cutting school fees, freezing tuition, and capping electricity rates. And we're making sure that the health and the education services that Albertans rely on are strong, modern, and there for people when they need them. It's all about making life better for people. And with today's changes to our cabinet, we're strengthening our ability to make sure the economic recovery reaches into the homes of each and every Albertan. So thank you very much. I believe we might have questions, so, you know. Here, come over this.
Sandra has speaking notes.
You have notes? Oh, cool. I didn't know it.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Premier Notley for her trust. This is an extremely important role, and I am humbled to take it on. Infrastructure isn't just about roads and buildings. Infrastructure is about people. It's about the schools where we send our kids to learn and grow. It's about the hospitals where we turn when our loved ones are injured or ill. It's about the roads and the bridges that connect our families, our businesses, and our communities. And it is about making sure we are creating good jobs for people today
and building a better, more secure tomorrow for Albertans. And that's why we are making badly needed investments to create jobs in Calgary and to build a better future. The new Calgary Cancer Centre, the Green Line, the Southwest Ring Road, and so much more. Investments that create jobs for people, that make it easier for people to get around the city and that make our economy grow. That's my focus, creating good jobs and building Alberta for the future. And before I close, on a personal note, my dad, who is in the audience, used to work for Public Works, which was one of the precursors to Alberta infrastructure. I have, in his entire career in the government, starting in 1959, I have always been proud to know that he dedicated so much of himself to building a better Alberta brick by brick. It makes me emotional just to think about it. It is a huge honor to be part of this team. They are amazing. They have been welcoming to me, and I honestly love them. They are a family to me, and this feels absolutely wonderful today. It is an incredible honor to be part of this team with a premier and a cabinet and caucus that have welcomed me so warmly, and to be able to carry on my dad's work of helping build this province. So thank you, Premier Notley, for this incredible opportunity.
We'll now take questions from the floor before we take questions from the phone.
Premier, you said the word Calgary about 5 or 6 times in 2 sentences there. I mean, how much of this is prepping for 2019 and you're building your team in Calgary?
What this is really focused on is continuing the work that we promised Albertans we would do before the last election and ever since the last election, which is have their backs and work with them as we try to move forward into a period of economic recovery. And the reality is that that people in Calgary are hurting more than in many other parts of the province. We know that the unemployment rate there is still high. And so we have to focus on stimulating the economy, supporting the community, and creating jobs there. It doesn't mean that we're not focused throughout the province. We are. But we also know that in Calgary, that there's work that needs to be done. We still have a lot of empty office buildings and a lot of people who are still looking to recover the prosperity that we had before the drop in oil prices. So that's what it's about.
Other questions?
You're splitting up then infrastructure and transportation. Are you saying there wasn't enough focus on infrastructure before?
No, not at all. It's just that they're two very, very big ministries with a significant breadth and depth of responsibility. Transportation probably has more going on in it now than it has for decades. Not only are we investing in so much of the infrastructure that didn't get the attention it needed in the past, but we're also dealing with the Spring Bank, we're dealing with the ring roads. I mean, there just really is a lot of work in construction, in transportation. And as I've already said, Minister Mason is also the House Leader. So there's a lot of work on his plate. And infrastructure, the investment in capital development, much as per David Dodge's report that we relied on right when we first got elected, as a means of creating jobs, it's very important. And so we just want to make sure that it gets all the attention it deserves.
Premier, why have you got 2 parliamentary secretaries from the same region, just outside of Edmonton, plus member Cortez Vargas on the Treasury Board? It seems like you're really stacking your upper ranks there.
No, and I think it's fair to that piece is not. It's not regionally based. It wasn't regionally considered. Annie McKittrick has many, many, many years' experience as a school board trustee from when she lived in BC. And so honestly, that's what drove that consideration. It was her skill set and her contribution to caucus up to this point. Jessica Littlewood has a strong track record of building relationships with small business people, with key stakeholders in her community and outside of her community. She's already been helping do a lot of work in terms of meeting with folks in smaller communities around issues of regional economic development and that kind of thing. So it's really very much about their skill set. Brian Malkinson is from Calgary as well, and of course yes, I mean, Estefania, you're right, is also from Sherwood Park, but she's been our caucus whip for a very long time now, and swearing her into the Cabinet Committee for Ledge Review is really, that's a matter of streamlining and improving communication and connection between the caucus committee and the Cabinet Committee.
Mr. Jansen, I have two questions for you. One is, I know you just got the job. You are from Calgary. Is your focus going to be shepherding existing projects, or are there other infrastructure projects you'd like to move up in Calgary?
Well, we have some great projects in Calgary, notably the Cancer Center, which, we've been waiting for a very long time. I'm really excited about that. Obviously, the Green Line is incredibly important as well. And so we have some exciting projects on the go, and I want to make sure that I pay very close personal attention to those. And certainly, this is about, this is an entire caucus and cabinet effort at Building Alberta. And so I am a part of a larger group making sure that that happens, that those projects, really the infrastructure build is phenomenal. I mean, the money being put into this province right now is life-changing for people. We're not talking about structures, just structures that are going to make people's lives better. We're talking about meaningful job creation that is going to make a difference for generations. So I'm excited to be a part of this, and I can't wait to get working on it.
Can I ask you about, I think next month is the 1 year. It's been an eventful year for you,
Yes.
to say the least. I wonder, I know you're an associate minister under Redford, but if somebody said to you 5 years ago, you'll finally achieve full cabinet rank, but it would be under an MP.
She totally saw it coming. As did you.
Yeah, you could have knocked me over with a feather if you had shown me this scenario a year ago. But, I can honestly say that, you learn and you grow. I mean, there's no manual for doing this job. I know that, what I've gone through in the past year has given me an opportunity to really listen to my internal voice on, issues of, my moral and ethical framework. And I think, once I sat down and really considered, where I needed to go and what I wanted to do, I think, I think the whole thing, as terrible as some moments were, and, honestly, the death threats weren't great, but, I think at the end of the day, it's been an incredible learning experience, and the family that I got out of it is worth every moment of the pain, because I feel like I'm in a place now where I can do my job surrounded by people who have my back.
I stand to be corrected, but you were a social progressive, but very much a fiscal conservative. And now you're in charge of a department of government that's decided it's going to spend wads of cash, even with big deficits, to get the infrastructure moving. That seems like a bit of a disconnect, is it not?
Well, I think people romanticize about the Klein years as a time when we had a zero deficit and everything was wonderful. And the reality was that in those years, infrastructure projects and infrastructure money was pushed to the background so that the budget could be balanced. And in fact, that debt was pushed onto future generations. Well, now the future generations are here. We need that infrastructure. We need schools. We need highways. We need that cancer center. We need transit for people to get around in a province that's growing all the time. And the fact is, the responsibility is on us to make sure we do that infrastructure build. And I'm thrilled to be a part of it, because doing that build right now, while at the same time in our economic situation creating jobs for people, is a win-win for everybody.
Premier, to go back to points raised earlier on, your critics are going to attack this as a cynical move. You're rewarding a floor crosser, giving her a large portfolio as a way basically to try and curry favor with Calgary exclusively. Now you've spent a lot of time in Calgary, Calgary minister now. This is a cynical move that they'll be saying to you to try and get more support in a city where you're right now vastly unpopular.
Well, I suppose, critics will say that and many other things as well. But what I will say, as I've said before, is that what this is about is doing the job again that we said we would always do to Albertans. If, in terms of focusing on having their backs as we come through this recovery, as we work to create those jobs that were lost 2 years ago. And so, if the case had been that Calgary had started moving through the recovery faster, like Edmonton, and hadn't experienced the same job loss as Edmonton, Edmonton, well, then the focus would be shifted. But my job, at the end of the day, as the Premier of Alberta, is to look at the places that need our attention and to focus on those. Doesn't mean, as I've said, that we're not already making a number of investments and focusing on Edmonton as well. But the reality is that there have been significant pain in Calgary, and you can't walk down the street and talk to people in Calgary without hearing them talk to you about that and explain what that does to their families and how they feel about their future. And so a responsive government, regardless of where political support is or isn't, that's not what this is about. This is about being a responsible government to the people of the province who elected us.
Very good. Can I just shift gears a bit to the municipal election in Calgary yesterday? Bill Smith had quite a few UCP supporters. Of course, he's not. Danny Denchey's been back in. What do you think about the results, and what does that perhaps portend for your government?
Well, again, as I've said, I'm really focused on governance. I'm not focused on reading the tea leaves for, years or months down the road. So as it relates to politics, what it means is that Calgary has elected a new municipal government, as has Edmonton, as have communities across this province. And our government looks forward to working with all of them to continue this work in terms of helping Albertans come through the economic slowdown, and also working with school boards to continue the amazing work that Minister Egan and now Parliamentary Secretary McKittrick will continue to do around improving our education system and improving the opportunities for kids. And so for us, it's about being very pleased that the turnout was as high as it was in some communities, that people were engaged. That's great. And the process worked the way it was supposed to, with a few bumps here and there. And now, as the provincial government, I look forward to working with those other levels of government and those successful candidates, and they all have my congratulations.
We're going to go to the phone lines now. There are 2 callers on the line. Operator, please put through the first caller.
Our first question comes from James Wood of the Calgary Herald. Your line is open.
Hi, Premier. I just wanted to maybe get a bit further clarification of this, sort of touched on it a little bit, but what does it mean to bring a Calgary focus to this? Do we get more money here in Calgary? Are we looking for extra projects to receive funding? And I will have a follow-up one.
Well, no. So 2 answers, one serious and one less so. So in fact, what it's about, it's not necessarily creating a pot of money or anything like that. It's just making sure that we have an appropriate level of focus on the parts of the province that need it. Doesn't mean that we don't still have a very strong cabinet representation in Edmonton, that obviously the new minister will also be focused on the process of improving and monitoring infrastructure projects in Edmonton, in Lethbridge, in Red Deer, in Fort McMurray. All that work is still going to be done by this minister. But it certainly doesn't hurt for us to be able to have someone from Calgary, because we have some big projects in Calgary too. And so it's just about ensuring that the whole province gets the attention that it needs. On a slightly less serious note, I will also note that you may have noticed that the Attorney General is getting very close to giving birth, and Minister Payne pointed out that every minister from Calgary who's a woman has ultimately given birth in office, and so there's one piece I forgot to chat with Sandra about. But we just like to have young children around the cabinet table, so. Anyway, so there's an answer.
On that issue, you're leaving her the portfolio, the Green Line file, and I was just wondering, either one of you could answer this, or both of you can answer this. I mean, is the province happy with how this is all played out? I mean, there are still concerns that this is less bang than what was originally intended for the buck. Will the province be looking at ways to maybe try and extend this, or see if there are other savings that could be found to try and maximize the project again?
Well, I think it's a bit premature to get into that question, but I do know that that it's really important, I think, for us to set out a long-term vision, not only for Calgary, but also for Edmonton, in terms of public transit. Both cities deserve to have the kind of public transit that reflects their world-class status and reflects the fact that investment and new jobs ought to be focused on coming to Alberta for a wide range of reasons. And certainly having that kind of forward-looking public transit system in place is critical to that in both cities. So I think there's no question that as we look down the road, we'll be having conversations about what a long-term public transit plan looks like in both cities. But I can't get into the particulars of it at this point.
Operator, please put through the next caller.
Our next question comes from Kendra Fowler of 660 News. Your line is open.
Hello. My question is also pertaining to the Green Line. I was just curious, if this is only a one-term government, then what will happen to all the funding raised towards this really, really big project that keeps kind of getting delayed?
Well, I guess there's those people who want the Green Line need to consider it being a more than one-term government. But honestly, I mean, that's a bit of a hypothetical question. I think that every government needs to, I mean, and sometimes governing means planning for projects that go beyond the election cycle. And that's the responsible thing to do. If you didn't do that, you couldn't build. You couldn't build your province. You couldn't have a vision of the future. We are here to deliver a vision of the future that is long-term, that is thoughtful, that takes the time that is necessary to really build a regime in which the province can flourish for generations. And so that sometimes means making plans that go beyond 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. And we'll do everything we can, either in government or otherwise, to make sure that those plans continue forward, because that's what's best for growing our province.
Did you have a follow-up, Ken? Oh, we have no more callers on the line, so that concludes the program. Thank you.
Thank you.